has fashion been a source of inspiration for your work?
Fashion is like, it's such a rich way to express your individuality and who you are. And of course, it's part of the work. It's a big part of the work, actually. Sometimes it's really, I don't go in with a precise idea and like with a meaning in mind. Sometimes it'll be organic, it'll come just as I do it. Like, I never think about what people will think of it. I like, am I excited about the work? Would my 8-year-old self be excited about the work? And if the answer is yes, then like, I just go ahead. If you're actively trying to find a style, and this is what your goal is, you won't find your style. But I think that if you really want to get serious about your art, you really got to be careful about really looking inwards to be able to look outwards without corrupting the work that you're going to make, basically, if that makes any sense.
Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you. Very good. Yourself?
I love the background. I see a lot of work. I actually see one of the work that I saw in your Instagram that I absolutely love. So it's very
Thank you.
exciting to have you from your studio. Tell
Thank
me,
you.
tell me what's up. How are you doing? What time is it for you?
Right now it's 11 p.m.
Oh,
Yeah, it's way past my bedtime. I go to bed. I'm an early riser, so I go to bed quite early. I normally start work around 9, so I wake up around 6:30, have coffee, meditate for a half hour, then slowly move into the studio and then start painting.
so you step into the studio every day?
Yeah, pretty
Wow.
much. Especially now, I step into the studio about 6 or 7 days a week because I'm working on it's quite crazy, but I'm working on a show for August, and I have about 9 other pieces to make. So
Wow.
I'm just working hard right now.
I am so grateful for you taking that time out. I know we had a few technical issues as well. But tell me something about yourself. How did you get into the arts and like where you are? I know you didn't come from an art school. Take us through a little bit of your journey.
So I did briefly go to art school
You did?
here in just for a little bit. Uh, I got bored really, really quickly. Um, Here in Quebec, which is a province in Canada, we have what is called a CEGEP, and it's basically a bridge between high school and university. And I took about a year or so of art school over there, and it just didn't stick. The program was like very like large in terms of what you would do and touch. So we would basically cover all grounds, and I personally only wanted to paint. So that was too scattered for me to actually take keep interest in the program. So I left, and then I studied for about 6 months. I'm not a very good student, so I'm not a point of reference maybe for aspiring artists. But anyways, so and then I did 6 months of fashion design,
Oh, you did fashion
and
design?
for a little bit. And then same thing happened. Well, it was different then because the program I was like the school I was in was not necessarily the best, and the program for fashion design was like brand new basically. So the teachers that were there didn't even have like uh, a degree to teach. So it was like a
Goodness.
little like it was okay. So I felt like I was losing my
All of
time.
this was in Canada while you were
Yeah,
still here?
yeah. So I felt like I was wasting my time in a sense. And then shortly after, I got pregnant with Lily, my daughter, she's 14 now. And
She's
then
14?
14, yeah, yeah.
My goodness. Are you
I I
serious?
look a bit younger than than I am.
You definitely don't look like a mom of 14.
Uh,
I just couldn't imagine that.
yeah. Anyways, we look like people. People think we're. Anyways, it's gonna sound cliche, but people
Sister.
do think that we're sisters. Yeah. Like, let's if we go to the restaurant, they'll ask us if we're gonna split the bill, which is weird. I'm like, it's my child. Uh,
My
yeah.
goodness.
So anyway, so when I had her, I was in maternity leave, and then I did not necessarily had a lot of time on my hands, as you may know. Like, as some of you may know, when you're a new mother, like time is very, very precious, and there's not a lot of it. But I made it a point to start painting every time like I had a minute to myself. So basically I would hold her with one hand and breastfeed her, and then I would like paint with the other, and then that would be like my night basically. uh so and then from there I just like continued trying to put as much work in, and then I started
What
working
year was
again.
this?
It was 2008. So 14 years ago. So that's really uh, what started it all. Basically, I was just like I wasn't doing much with my life at the time, and I was still waitressing in bars and restaurants, and I was just like, okay, I need to do something with myself for my daughter and myself as well. So I just started that as like a side pursue, a side project, and then uh, I just
Stopped.
never stopped. I just never quit. And like, I just put more and more time into it, and it just developed basically. And I've only basically been doing that full time for the past five, 6 years now. 5 years, 6 years. Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah.
But your work is incredible. And
Thank you.
when I when I figured that you didn't come from an art school, and I felt like now I also it makes sense that you did fashions, because I also did fashion and didn't I just did it quite a bit longer than I thought I could.
Yeah.
And I just realized that it wasn't like as creative like with my own hands as I wanted it to be. And
Yeah.
I felt like, oh my God, I've wasted another few years of my life and I don't know if I'll ever use this.
Yeah.
But fashion came into my work, textiles and everything that I had interest in
Yeah.
eventually came back into my work.
Yeah.
And I see the same thing with you now, because
Yeah.
your work is so much, it's of course the face, the story, and but it has so much detailing on the silhouettes and the way
The fabric. Yeah.
um yes, the way the fabric falls, the light, and the curves of the fabric. It's like a designer's eye.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. So it's not a door I've closed actually. But I told myself that instead of doing like fashion design and then start from the bottom as a fashion designer basically, and having to work and sew for someone and do all the hard work, I told myself once I'm established enough and well known enough, I'll just hire people to do all that, and all I'll have to do is basically just draw the designs, and I won't have I could actually skip all that hard work. So maybe one day you'll see me.
See, we'll also see wear your clothes apart from only seeing them. Okay, tell me something. Has fashion been a source of inspiration for your work?
Absolutely, fashion is uh, like it's such a rich way to express your individuality and who you are, and of course, it's part of the work. Uh, it's a big part of the work, actually. I think styling the models is something I do basically, and I photograph them as well. Uh,
So you basically, okay, yeah, let's talk about your process. How does that work?
Okay, so that starts with sometimes I have a model in mind, sometimes I have like an old master's works in mind that I want to recreate. Um, and then what I'll do, I'll just contact them. Some of them I know already from like a long time, but the new ones, sometimes I'll contact them and I'll ask them if they would like to pose for me. So then basically they come over to the studio. I dress them with a bag of clothes that I have here, or my clothes, or if they have something cool that they brought, I'll use their own personal style also. And then I'll like place their hair quite quickly, do maybe a little bit of makeup, like, and then I'll take the photos. And then from that photo, I'll do a little bit of iPad work, basically on it, and then from there, I use the reference as the the reference for the final painting.
How did you come to? Can you talk a little bit about what your work is about, and how? Let's also talk about how did you find, because you have a very cohesive, like, when I see your work, I know it's your work. Like, I can, no matter where I see it, I
Thank
know
you.
it's your work. So you have that sense of cohesiveness, but also that sense of style. Like I said, like, the way um your fabric falls and like the details and the way you color. um let's talk about a someone who didn't, like, you didn't come from an art school per se. One of the biggest struggle a lot of people have is like, let me break this, the technical part, which is definitely the biggest part of the work,
Yeah,
technically figuring things out and making sure, like, then the part where your work becomes more recognizable and more you, like finding that voice or that visual style, and like whatever that may look like you. How did you figure these two?
I think uh, so. Basically, finding the style, like if you're actively trying to find the style, and this is what your goal is, you won't find your style. You really have to let go of that idea, and you really just have to work on your skill sets. What is your strength? What are you good at? What do you like? What you don't like? And then from there, a style will be built from all the things that define you, basically. But it's not something that you go on a quest and then you're like, oh, let me go and find my style. It's really just try as best as possible as to be honest with yourself about what you like, what you dislike, and also be careful of looking too much at other people's works, because it will corrupt your work in a sense, not in a bad way. You can do it like while you're still like in learning phase, but I think that if you really want to get serious about your art, you really got to be careful about really looking inwards to be able to look outwards without corrupting the work that you're going to make, basically, if that makes any sense.
How did that work for you? How What's your story? What's your work? Let's talk a little bit about your work. The figures, the female figures. What are you trying to do with your work?
So basically, um, it's funny because I was just writing my text for my solo show and it just went super loopy because, anyways, it's very complex thoughts and ideas that I have uh, about like the process of why am I doing this and what does it represent and what is it. But to put it in a simple way, it's basically uh, those paintings basically all reflect something, my thoughts, a part of me that basically I'm hiding behind. So what I'm doing, I'll use a model that is not me, but still what I'm looking for into that model is that piece of me, basically. So when I'm trying to uh, talk about a subject or whatever, I'm really trying to get that like little glimpse, like that one photo that is like just says like everything that I want to say. And then from there, basically, the work is like born into the world. But yeah, and it doesn't really have, sometimes it's really, I don't go in with a precise idea and like with a meaning in mind. Sometimes it'll be organic, it'll come just as I do it, or But it's really it has to speak to me first. Like I never think about what people will think of it. I like, am I excited about the work? Would my 8-year-old self be excited about the work? And if the answer is yes, then like I just go ahead.
Tell me something. Your when you're even saying this, like something that I read on your website, which was like how times change, but people are still themselves. Were you like someone who would like I'm trying to interest like it's not like one fine day we get up and like we like okay this is what I'm interested in or okay this is what I believe in and this is what I'll make my work about. Um how did you come up how did you find and discover this idea that became such a big backbone for your own work?
Uh, by that, you are you referring to the reference to the old masters? Okay,
Yes.
because that's what I mean by the times that change, but people stay the same. That's what it refers to, basically. So, but it was just so how it came along and like became a thing that I did in my work was basically to be able to work within a set of limitations that would make it easy for me to discuss about anything I wanted without being
Okay.
burdened with without the burden of like having to choose a topic or so I just had to go from that idea and then use whatever I find interesting enough in it and then apply
Yeah,
it to my
let's
work.
let's go a little bit in detail. Like how would you do that? Like would you pick up a work?
I basically just I just go on my Instagram. I go like check out accounts of like old masters work, and then I'm just like, oh, this is hilarious. I'm gonna recreate this one, or whichever like speaks to me, and then from there I'll recreate basically
And how do
the
you, what is your process of recreation? Do you like, how do you bring you in those works?
well, I don't necessarily use the exact same pose, or I'm just the rule. The number one rule basically is just to try and bring bring to life what the old masters would have done today in our cultural context, basically. So, like, um, for example, you have like this portrait of these two women who are laughing at their phone. If you look at the reference, there it's two women laughing at like a letter, like a love letter they received. But instead, I transformed it as like an unsolicited dick pic that they're laughing at on the phone. You can maybe add a note after with that reference to the work, but and then I was just like, this is what it would be like today. So by saying that times change but people stay the same, it's that in the core essence of what humans are, we all have the same responses emotionally, basically, and we we're the same people as the people that were here 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago. So
I love that. Yeah. Do you think like being a mother also like, like you said right now, being a mother, also being a mother of a 14-year-old who's like it's a whole different ball game. Being a 14-year-old in today's time looks very different
yeah,
than being a 14 from the time you came, I came. Has like I feel like I get a feeling that she and growing up has also become somehow a part of your work.
um, she informs my work, but
In what way then?
she'll she's my best critic, actually. She's just like, did you finish the hair there? Because you could do better. Like, I'm like, okay, you're right. Like, so in that way, yeah, she informs the work in that sense, but um, I don't incorporate her in the work because
Yeah.
first, she's my daughter, and also she's a child. And I don't paint children. They're creepy.
No, but you know what? I feel like, you know, the language, like, I saw your work, the read receipts, like it's a lot of those ideas. Either, I don't know, I mean, it's our own personal, maybe your own personal experience, but also like how people, young people today, have a very different language and very different problems that
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
are
yeah.
experiencing.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I really love that work, actually.
Thank you. But yeah, she will inform me in that sense. Like she'll tell me what's cool, what's not cool,
What's not
what's
cool?
the language, what's not like what words not to use to sound cool or whatever. But like she's the one who's basically running my TikTok account. She makes all
Oh my
the
goodness.
the big boss decisions. She's like, "Mom, that's lame. Don't post that." TikTok is like new to me, so it's like difficult to navigate it because like I just don't know what kids are doing on there. But I think I got a hold of it now, or at least
Now
soon. But yeah,
you
I
also
was,
have an expert by your side now.
yeah, exactly. So she helps in that way.
Wonderful. But you know what? When I was like, even I was just checking out your the same work, the read receipts, and I was like going through the scroll. And you know, it's very interesting to me, even though, like you say, like from the master's work to who your work, it's a whole new journey. Like it's a whole new drama. Like, do you, when you look at a work, from what I can see from this, like um when you look at a work, I can see the master's work has like an emotion, and then you've really like really played with it and like really created in your own style. Like, do you pick up, how do you like decide, like, because there's not like one thing is to pick up details, improvise, edit, but you have like a whole new, like it's still the same but it's still a lot of different.
Yeah, I try to just grab the essence and stay vague about it so that I don't have to like check too many boxes. I really just try to take the essence that I see that is like interesting enough to bring back to life, basically, I think. But it's not like
Okay.
I'm actually trying to like redo the same exact like because
Yeah, absolutely.
the contexts have changed, the culture has changed, a lot of things have changed, but like if you, and also most of these paintings are women who are just sitting in front of men being like bored, like waiting for them to finish. So like there's a lot of that also in the work.
But a lot of women appear in your work. A lot of your work is a lot about women.
It's mostly only women because I like these subjects are basically me, so I feel like they need to be really close to being a woman or at least reflect my my masculine side if they were to be in the work. So
One thing, another thing I love about your work is your titles.
thank you.
They have a lot to say.
Yeah,
What goes behind that? You have a lot of fun there, actually.
yeah, well, so I won't know what a title is. Like I'll have a vague idea, but sometimes like it's normally like at the very end that I'll choose a title. I'll have it once I have it like it takes me about like 100 hours to paint one painting. So I have 100 hours to let it simmer basically on the back burner. And then by the time I'm finished with the painting, this is when I really sit in front of it and think about the title. And then I'll have like my notes where I wrote different titles, potential. And then I'll go with the most uh, relevant one and or funny. Sometimes they're really, really funny.
So is humor a part of who you are, actually?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm that funny because like, but I do appreciate a really good sense of humor in people. I think I have a great sense of humor, I think, but I'm no
Truly,
comedian.
it does reflect via your work. Even like I think I really enjoy this. Like, so until I'd really gone into your work on the front, like, when you look at someone looks at your work, it looks like this female, really polished, because your work is very fine, like super, like flawless. And it's like, it also looks like a lot like poised and finished and together, and like, like a perceptual image of when you look at someone's work that looks so pulled together. But when you go in and, the story is like, it's quite a juxtaposition, because they're like how it looks versus, your titles and like
Right.
your process. Like they are just, it's very unexpected, I would say. Like, it's not something that you expect when you look at your work, and when someone goes into it and it's like, oh, this is new.
This is yeah, right. But I really like a good contrast in anything. Like even the way I dress, I'll wear like I don't know. I'll wear things that don't necessarily fit together because I think it makes a nice highlight. It highlights better what you pair together. And I think the same about the work. So I'll put you someone with a face tattoo, and then she's just like poetically sitting in clouds. So that's the idea, I think, behind it.
Okay, let me ask you a couple of questions, which is not about the work, but your own journey as an artist. Did you you said you became a full-time artist a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
How long before that were you still painting? Like, how did you find now? Like, your work today is very popular. Your work is loved on social media. You're showing all around, but I'm sure it wasn't the case always. Can you talk a little bit about um, how has your journey been? What has been the hardest part for you as an artist?
Well, the hardest part was always and still is like to get rid of your fear, basically. Maybe not fear is not the right word, but just like your doubts or your self critic or whatever you want to name it, but like that little voice that is just like telling you, trying to put you down. Getting rid of that is like, it's something that like I've never like, I'm still not done with that voice or that inner critic. It's still there and alive, but like to be able to push through like the moment where you're not gonna be able to make rent, and like still push through and still like stick to your guns and say like this is worth it. First of all, maybe I'm delusional, maybe I was delusional back then, but I think the trick is just to be delusional long enough until you don't have to be
Make it.
delusional anymore. So
I love
that's,
that.
I mean, there's not an easy way to do things. I think if success comes too quick, maybe that's because success in the long term might won't work, or maybe it will. I'm not saying that, but sometimes it just it's good to have to push through certain um uh what's the word? Sorry, it's late over
It
here.
gives you resilience when you get through these
Yeah.
struggles and obstacles, and like it builds a character in you, because
Yeah, but it also pushes you to do better work because you're like, well,
yeah,
okay, well, if this didn't work, then I'll just try harder and I'll do something, I'll
another
take a
one.
bigger risk, and then maybe I don't care what people think in the end because nobody cares about my work. So you just go for it, and then you just decide to just go all out and like put yourself out there, basically.
Perfect. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
You're
Before I let
welcome.
you go, I have a small rapid fire for you. Are you ready? Let's start with this or that. Okay. Creativity or perfectionism?
Creativity.
I love asking this question to people who are like whose work is very like on point and like perfect to the
Well,
T.
yeah. I don't think of my work as being perfect, but I'll take it.
Oh no, you have a very good, like, your work looks stunning. Early morning or late night? What's your creative time?
Early morning.
Okay, you just said. So
Yeah.
you're not like a late night person. What
No.
time by do you go to bed?
I normally go to bed at like 10, and I'm asleep by
Ah,
like 10:30, and then I wake up at 6 about. Yeah. I like to have
Nice.
the natural light also. I don't like to work with the,
Artificial lights.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Music or silence? Your zone of creation.
music.
Yo, what kind of music do you hear?
Oh my God. That's, it's, it's too, it's too weird to describe. I have tastes that like even aliens in space would be like weirded out by my taste in music. It could be anything. Sometimes it's just like sounds like like just like a buzz, a constant buzz. Sometimes it's
My
gonna be
goodness.
like it's so weird. Like I would have to actually make a weird like a playlist and like do like an art exhibition only with the sounds I play when I paint. It's quite it's weird.
What is the worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, actually, one of my ex once told me, uh, you should never ever speak publicly because you're terrible at it. And I was like, oh my God. And then
Thanks.
it's like, I'm not gonna listen to that. And then here I am.
Yes, and here you are.
Yeah.
Okay. What can you share one of the most rewarding moment for you as an artist? Something that you feel very close to, you know, you cherish the most?
The best is actually when like school kids are using my art as like a topic for like a presentation or like a research project or something. This actually like is the best thing because it actually means that you made it. Like when kids are just like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, she's great," you're like, "Oh my God, am I cool?" They're like, "Yeah." this is this is basically what I live for.
Lovely. Okay. How has technology played a role in your creative process? Has it enhanced you? Does it work as a distraction? What's your experience?
Well, I use every bit of technology that I can. I'm still not touching AI because I find that it might defy the purpose of my creation process. But anyways, that aside, I use a projector to sketch. Like I haven't always did that. Like when I started, basically I was just like freehanding it. But
Freehand.
yeah, but now I use a projector. You just save countless amounts of hours basically doing that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest it when you just start off, but it's definitely a tool that most painters today use because you only have so many paintings you can do in a lifetime.
Yeah.
If this changes the amount or the quality of your paintings, you should definitely use it. And I use the
Yeah.
iPad and I work on Procreate, which is a basically drawing program. And I basically do all my like photo montage there and arrange color or add or subtract certain things. But that's about it. Oh, and a
So it's
camera, I
helped.
guess. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. One last question. What is one piece of advice you'd like to give to other women artists who are listening to this podcast?
What's the advice I would give? I I wrote this very like specific because I got that question asked maybe 2 days ago and I wrote something brilliant, but I can't quite remember it right now. But I would say one of the best advice I read somewhere was to just become undeniable. So work until your work can't be questioned. And this is where like you hold your power basically.
Yeah. Love that. Thank you so much, Roxy. Thank you so
You're
much. I
so
know.
welcome. It was such a pleasure.
Same here. Same here. Okay. One last thing.
Yeah.
Where can people who are listening to this episode find you, support you? Do you have anything upcoming that you'd like to share with us? We'll
Uh,
add everything in the show notes.
yeah. Well, I have my solo exhibition coming up in August. I also will. I have magazine publication coming up in June, which I'm not allowed to really talk about,
Okay.
but you will find it on my
Well, let us know when
Instagram.
you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what else? I have a group show coming in at Mortal Machine Gallery end of March. Um, it's called No Logic, No Boundaries. And anyways, I have to now. I just remembered I have to ship the piece tomorrow. So yeah, so that's what's
Amazing.
in the cards for now.
Where can we find you on Instagram?
Instagram, I'm Roxy Peroxide with Roxy with a Y, Peroxide with a Y, and same thing on TikTok and Facebook. I'm not really on Facebook though. And you can also, my website is roxyperoxide.com, where you can get prints or t-shirts or sometimes little merch and stuff and little doodads.
Yes, yes. I will link everything in the show notes. So if you're interested and if you like this episode, make sure that you go visit the show notes where you'll find Roxy's work, her links, everything she's mentioned, a little Q&A of this episode, and the full show's transcript. So if you're on the go or if you want to look at more of what we've spoken about, make sure you head on to our website, www.arts2heartsproject.com. Thank you so much, Roxy. I'm very grateful. Thank you so much for your time. I know that you're in a busy season, and I hope you have a fantastic show and have a fantastic time in the studio.
Thank you so much for having me, and it was all worth my time, and it was lovely talking to you and getting to know you.
Same here.
Okay, bye bye.